Well, good afternoon again. I'd like to start actually just by thanking a couple of Stratford companies, FleetCom, which is in group communications, push-to-talk and other forms, as well as the Royal Bank of Canada, one of the world's largest banks, for underwriting our session here with the mayor. I visited Stratford in April, a beautiful time to visit that city, and what I discovered was that they're trying to do something truly extraordinary, which is to create a cluster from the ground up. In fact, they're not just trying to create one cluster. Whether they know it or not, they're actually working on creating at least two. The population of 32,000 people, the smallest community in this year's top 7, and they're already home to one of North America's leading Shakespeare festivals, the Stratford Festival. It is the city's single largest employer, source of more than $150 million in annual economic benefits, so it's very significant for a community of that size. What Stratford is seeking to do is to build a digital media cluster around that source of intellectual property to take it into the 21st century. So they went about it in this very wonderfully methodical way. The first thing, of course, if you're going to have a digital media cluster is you need a robust broadband infrastructure, because that's what underlies it. So the city's own rhizome networks, and we'll talk more about them with the mayor, has certainly done that job. And if you peel back the layers on that, what you find is that they have created the digital infrastructure of a major metropolitan area the size of a Toronto or New York in this small city of 32,000 people. Next on the list, of course, a digital media cluster. I've got the digital infrastructure covered. Now what else do I need? I need talent. And so last year, Stratford welcomed the first class of a graduate digital media program at a satellite campus of the University of Waterloo, whose main facility is about an hour away. So they've begun to create the educational infrastructure of a major metropolitan area in this city of 32,000. Okay, what's next? Well, next is to encourage business startups by these talented young people and to attract the risk capital that's required to fund those startups. And so Stratford is one of 2 commercialization centers for the Canadian Digital Media Network. It also persuaded the Greater Toronto AngelNet investors to include Stratford in its sphere, to start bringing meetings to Stratford to expose them to the new companies springing up there. So fascinating, right? Step by step by step. We don't obviously know the end of the story yet, but they're putting all the components in place that the Intelligent Community Forum says they should have, so I suspect they'll do fine. But at the same time, there's another set of innovation activities happening there which are not planned in the same way, are perhaps more opportunistic, and yet are fascinating. The US company called Anycom, which is actually one of our sponsors here, full disclosure, is piloting a revolutionary approach to lighting by embedding computer processors and Wi-Fi into street lighting, into home lighting. And because Anycom is there, and because Mayor Mathieson led a delegation to Japan, Toshiba is also there. And Toshiba is testing its LED-based street lighting and looking at the Anycom technology and thinking ahead about how we can make our lighting smarter. Cisco is demonstrating its telepresence system that's designed to allow a small city staff to cover a very large area virtually. So instead of trying to put staff in every facility that might need it, you put a telepresence video conference unit there, and you can help the citizen in a very effective way, as opposed to just a voice on the telephone. So in Stratford, you have really these 2 clusters taking shape. One is very intentional, one's thought out. The other is assembled under what Mayor Mathieson will probably tell us is called the Stratford Principle. And I'll get him to tell you what that is so that I don't have to tell it to you. But before we talk, let's see Stratford for ourselves. Can you please roll the video?
Sunrise over Stratford. You know what that means? Swans stirring on the Avon River, our historic downtown waking up, the stage being set, and the scent of fresh roasted coffee in the air. This is a place where anything is possible. We've transformed into a world leader in digital infrastructure with smart technologies that support and nurture local businesses. Our shops and storefronts hide wonders waiting to be discovered. People come from all over to search out our treasures, and for those who call Stratford home, there's a steady abundance. From gourmet chocolates to specialty cheeses and organic foods, we enjoy all the best in life. Our many food festivals and farmers markets are overflowing with fresh local produce and delicacies, while our restaurants serve up the cuisines of the world. We enjoy our own citywide high-speed fiber optic network. This investment provides fiber to our homes and businesses and wireless connectivity to every mobile device. We've always prospered because of our visionary thinking and our willingness to take risks and invest in the future. 4 universities and 2 highly regarded technical colleges are within an easy hour's drive. We're proud to be home to the new Stratford campus of the University of Waterloo, a world-class university. The campus offers an innovative master's program in technology, digital media, and commercialization, and a groundbreaking 4-year undergrad program in innovation and global entrepreneurship. Our ecosystem of digital innovators and content creators are exploring new frontiers of collaboration and developing cross-platform applications and online services that are redefining the ways we work and play. We're also home to Canada 3.0, the nation's key digital media conference. Each year, thought leaders and visionaries from around the globe come together in Stratford to map out Canada's digital future. The Stratford Institute, a national think tank for digital media, is driving collaboration and advancing Canada as a digital force. And we're the founding hub of the Canadian Digital Media Network, where technology research meets business. The air crackles with energy and growth in advanced manufacturing and innovation. Companies with global reach are investing here because we've built the foundations for success. Being located in Canada's leading manufacturing area provides a huge sector advantage, and our skilled workforce spans the disciplines from advanced robotics, aerospace, auto parts manufacturing, and finance. Our modern and interconnected healthcare system is providing the very best in advanced healthcare. We've attracted top medical talent, and with the latest in e-health connectivity and robotic and diagnostic technologies, we enjoy a quality of patient care on par with major centers.
This is a great place to raise a family. Great schools, safe neighborhoods,
Come on, Dad, let's go.
and no shortage of after-school activities.
A truly smart city is one that knows how to play, and Stratford is a very smart city. Our community comes together in work and in play, and many of our festivals and events are held riverside. We put dragons in the water, and magic flows in our streets. There's always something going on, and new things to discover. Visit us, and the flowers are one of the first things you notice. We have a tremendous amount of civic pride, as you can tell when you walk down any street. Stratford enjoys the largest park area per capita of any city in Canada, with over 1,000 acres of groomed parkland steps from our front doors. As day turns to night, we head out in search of cuisine, conversation, and culture. Stratford's restaurant scene offers a range of culinary experiences not to be missed. And after dinner comes the show. We've been captivating audiences with world-class theater for 60 years, and we attract over 500,000 visitors each year. Our legacy in the arts has helped us imagine and create our place in the world, today and tomorrow.
Stratford has become a place where anything is possible. Past, present, future. Inspiring, innovative, and exhilarating. Welcome to a city of tomorrow.
You know, watching that, I was just reflecting that, because I've seen a lot of videos now of our top 7 communities, and I was just noticing that if you're above a certain latitude, it never snows. You know, I don't know why that is, but it's amazing. Maybe it's climate change at work.
Yeah, it's great pictures, isn't it? That's good.
When I was searching the web to find pictures of for instance, Oulu, I was like, trying to find one with snow on the ground was impossible. Brilliant. You guys are brilliant. Okay, so we've learned a little bit about Stratford, but let's learn some more. Every intelligent community has a crisis somewhere in its past. I've never found one that hasn't. It's always a story of renewal from something. So What and when was your community's crisis, and what was the response?
Well, probably if you look at Stratford's history, founded in 1854, it's been a history of renewal and reinvention. Late 1800s, great railway, #1 railway center in the country. And as we went through the 20s, great furniture developed. We come out of the war, though, in the 1940s, and the railway announces at the time they employed 2,000 people in a community of 20,000, and they say we're closing up our shops. You can imagine the turmoil in a community. And at that time, a gentleman by the name of Tom Patterson went to Stratford City Council with a vision. Said, give me $100, I'm going to New York, and I'm going to get Tyrone Guthrie and Sir Alec Guinness to come to Stratford and start a Shakespeare theater in the park. They gave him 125. Government threw money around back then, too. He came here, and last week we celebrated the 60th opening of the Stratford Shakespeare Festival. And Robert, you alluded to the numbers, 3,000 jobs directly and indirectly. So that's where a reinvention took place. As we got into the manufacturing sector, we got heavy into automotive, much like southwestern Ontario. And we saw that rise very well for us. And in the 80s, we lost the furniture manufacturers. At one time, 1/6 of all Canadian furniture was manufactured in Stratford. And we got deeper into automotive. And we saw ourselves very excited about that. We've got into aerospace and others, but we were deep. We saw automotive start to decline. And in the late 1990s, we struck a plan in 1997 called 2010 and Beyond, a community of excellence with worldwide impact. We said we wanted to attract a post-secondary education institution. We wanted to embrace information, communications, and technology as part of our economy. And we wanted to make sure that we had a quality of life unparalleled across other regions of the world. And Stratford started on that. And very methodically, through decisions in the 1990s and through 2000, we started to accumulate the assets you described that put us in a position to be in our reinvention. What was our major downturn or turmoil? I think it was the loss of skilled manufacturing jobs, the fact that our population was above the provincial median average, and our demographic for growth was dying off. And we realized that we needed to pull our bootstraps up, get a plan that represented the future economy, and we needed to head in that direction. And that's how we got to where we are.
One of the stories I remember from my visit was they started the festival in the park in a tent, and that ran for a few years, and it was obviously going to keep going. So Stratford decided to build a theater. And they got it designed, and they got it started building, and then they ran out of money, as so often happens with these things. And tell us what happened then.
So a young gentleman by the name of Oliver Gaffney. Oliver's father had died when he was 34, and Oliver was 35 years of age and running the John Gaffney Construction Company. And he had started to build this theater when they came to him and said, by the way, opening night's 12 weeks away. I don't have any money to pay you. So the tent's on order, the concrete needs to be laid and put down. How are we going to handle this? And Oliver believed in his community so much, he didn't want to be the guy that let them down. So in 1953, Oliver Gaffney was owed $200,000 for 2 years. He bankrolled the invention of the Stratford Shakespeare Festival. That's a guy who believes in his community. That's collaboration of a community, and that's coming together under a vision. Today, 60 years later, his daughter Anita is actually the administrative director of the theater. And we have celebrated that story. Oliver was a very humble man who never told anybody for about the first 20 years about that story. And it only came out through Tom Patterson's book, talking about how you can't give me all the credit. Somebody actually wrote the check.
Okay, so I mentioned in my opening remarks that you've got the broadband infrastructure of a big city, and how did that come about?
Well, in the late 1990s, the province of Ontario said to communities, you can sell off your hydro assets if you'd like.
And you own, or the city owned its own electric.
Yeah, so we had our own utility. And Stratford decided, no, hydro assets were going to be important. If we're going to be a community of excellence, worldwide impact, embracing ICT technology, and that's going to be where we want to be, we need to own that. That needs to be under our control. So we went out and bought the hydro assets of 6 other communities. And now we own the hydro assets of these other communities. The dividends come in, represent almost 4% of our tax levy is offset through these dividends. And we started to reinvest in laying fiber throughout our community. Today we have 70 kilometers of fiber optic network that is the backbone throughout our community. We've connected all our schools, our hospital, and various industries and government buildings. And then we overlaid it in 2009 and 10 with a wireless mesh network, an 802.11n from Motorola, that has 300 access points, giving our community ubiquitous Wi-Fi coverage, all backhauled across fiber. So a very redundant, robust system. And that has made it very, very much achievable for us to do many things.
Okay, that's one of the crown jewels of any community is if you own your own electric plant, Boy, are you ahead of the game.
Yeah.
You mentioned your skilled manufacturing workforce. So could you give us examples, and I've referred to the U Waterloo campus, of the steps that the community has taken to develop, to grow, and to hang on to skilled workforce. Not, of course, just in IT, but in other areas.
Sure. Well, a good example is when we laid the fiber out, many people say, okay, what's an intelligent community? And I joke about this all the time, but I get people say, if we're so smart, why wasn't my garbage picked up on time? Why was my recycling box? So you have to really put it into layman's terms on what an intelligent community is and what skilled workforce means in the future economy. So for us, there's a study called Menial No More that says jobs in the future economy, no matter what they are going to use some type of technology. We see it in manufacturing today. There's a plant called Florida Plastics Engineering in Stratford. It has a fiber link to the quality control room at Toyota at Cambridge, which is about 30 minutes away, and on to Alliston, which is about an hour and 45 minutes away, which is a Honda plant. And as parts come through this machine, the computer reads through micrometers the whole setting of that machine, and it puts a barcode on it, and the person running that machine knows before it even comes off the line whether it's meeting a deficiency or whether it can actually be shipped. And these employees need to be able to sign onto that machine, program it, and interact digitally with the quality control room of major auto manufacturers. That is a knowledge worker in the future economy. That is how we are going to take traditional manufacturing jobs and make them into what is a future knowledge economy. And we're seeing that in the future economy, there won't be offshore problems with China and others, because you're going to build quality and a robust system where everybody has that digital knowledge that's going to be important for skills development.
What about the festival? I mean, when we were there, you spoke about that as being this interesting sort of hire. It employs some actors and directors, but it's a much larger story than that in terms of knowledge work.
Well, when you think of knowledge workers there, we're now starting to take plays, clip them, put them on live and through webinar. We're having directors here give master classes to students around the world with regards to theater production. Our artists and craftsmen are now teaching courses digitally in other parts of the world. The theater sells almost 70% of their tickets online now through technology. We're actually seeing people take props, and we're starting this with green screens, digitizing all the assets. We have the largest prop warehouse in North America, 80,000 pieces in the collection. We're digitizing it, and now we're starting to see California film producers using those digital assets on green screen to add them to the productions. We're now taking what used to sit in a warehouse and digitizing, commercializing it, and monetizing it for the theater for new income. Those types of use of technology, while not thought of in the first degree, are now things that when you make these successive great decisions, roll out as side benefits to the community.
Could you give us, again, I mentioned some of the assets you're putting in place, but could you give us some sort of right now examples of innovation that's already happening in the community? You've just given us two, but in ICT, for instance, one of the things that I learned when I was there was that you've got a significant banking center, not necessarily for the front end, but for the back end of the banking industry.
So what we decided is we got going in this way. Brand recognition is important, and saying that you are no longer going to be a Shakespeare theater, but you're going to add one more pillar to your economy, required us to say, okay, we need to get out and show that we can play in this game. So at the time, Royal Bank of Canada, the 5th largest bank in the world, and the largest in Canada, was looking to put in a national data center. They call it a significant back office support center. Whatever that means in banking, to us it's computer servers and technology. And for us, we decided to do that. We needed to make a redundant hydro supply. So our hydroelectric company is actually doubled the size of our hydroelectric capacity by putting in a new transformer station. We've gone and put smart switches on all the main feeder lines, so technology through GIS and of course CAD can sense power down, actually cut it out, and we make ourselves 99.9% redundant for hydro. And when we did that, we started telling the story to RBC. They said, geez, we'd like to be there, but there's one problem. The only piece of property we like has a 10-inch gas main running through it. So I'm sorry, you're off the list. And we said, no, what if we could get the gas company to move that gas line? Because we think we want you here. They couldn't believe that any gas company would do that. But through collaboration and sharing the common vision and letting every part of the economy and business be part of it, the gas company said, sure, we'd move it. If you'd help us get new easements and the bank covers our costs, it's a win-win. They did it. Royal Bank paid $7 million to help move the gas line. We gave them new easements. They bought land from the city, and we have a 400,000 data center. I tell you right there, site selectors and technology companies all of a sudden sat up and took notice of Stratford. That if the 5th largest bank in the world thought that we could play in that sector, that we were on the right direction.
When I was in Stratford, I visited a couple of schools, and I saw your digital media program. It's an Ontario program, but I don't think it's a coincidence that it's right there in Stratford, as well as some very interesting online digital high school, basically. And how do those fit into this picture from your point of view?
Well, an interesting strategy is that if we were going to be a digital community, we needed to have the availability for digital education. So our school board, the Avon-Maitland District School Board, set out and created the first completely online high school where you could start in grade 9, graduate in grade 12 with a high school diploma, and never once step in a classroom. You could do it all online. So all of a sudden we had this great asset. We have our high skills digital major at one of our schools where the province said, you guys are on the right track. We'd like to give your community the opportunity where kids can start streaming in grade 10 towards digital technology and really start to specialize what they're doing. And when we did that, we now opened up our doors. And if you had the Stratford Beacon Herald, our daily newspaper here today, in actual print, they will tell you there's a story on the front page of it today that talks about international students. We're now having students from around the world come to Stratford to take their high school diploma because they're looking at the digital technology school and they want to come to the community, submerge themselves, learn English towards the end, and be in a position to head off to university. That's all part of the strategy. Those are the people that are going to help grow our population. And on the reverse side, that's why Stratford's made an investment, much like Waterloo did, in creating a technology park, completely wired with fiber, and we've got the Angel Network involved in all those, so that when they come out of university with commercializable ideas, they have an opportunity to create that business right in our community. We're developing the skills as early as we can in high school, and we've made ourselves an international mix of students from around the world to come, study in Stratford, and hopefully stay and change what would be a very homogeneous white community into more, I guess, international-based, reflective of what communities really are in the 21st century.
You described Stratford as having a history of renewal, and that's something I've come to think of as a competitive advantage for communities. If you've been there a few times, you know what falling off the cliff and getting back up again looks like. It's not so scary the next time. But that implies that the people of Stratford know how to renew themselves as well. And I'm wondering, in this, as you really make a couple of very profound shifts now, what about the folks who might not be able to come with you by themselves? What about the potentially excluded? How does Stratford consciously work to bring them along?
So we've really worked on a social inclusiveness basis. What we've tried to do is make sure that programs that we're adopting, that for the mainstream resident that want to go out and learn about technology, that's great. But we're making sure that seniors are getting the opportunity to learn in the community centers and the senior centers about what technology is and how it can help them in their lives, or at least explain the simple things like online banking and online bill paying. What is Google? How does Wikipedia work? We're seeing a lot of seniors take that. On the other side, through our ubiquitous Wi-Fi coverage over the city, we've started to work through our Ava Nova, which is our Technology Professionals Association in town, and they've got over 50 members. We're getting them now to go out and actually do outreach programs for digital inclusion for people at different socioeconomic levels in the community, to make sure that people that if they're at the low end of the social scale, they're not disenfranchised. We have access to computers. Open Text Corporation is a good example, gave us a number of their old computers. Our technology people at Ava Nova helped refit them, and then we gave them off to low-income families to help them get into the system and learn a little bit about it. And in learning those digital skills, they actually start to know how to put better resumes together. They know how to search for better jobs. They know how to improve their knowledge level. They can even do things as simple as just read the newspaper or get healthcare information. And that type of thing adds to the people's confidence and helps give them that resiliency that our community has.
What is the Stratford principle?
Depends on what day of the week it is. Sometimes I would say the Stratford principle is really about all rising together. That if we have something that benefits us and we work on it collectively and we share it with others, we'll all rise together. And that will make our community stronger, it'll make our region stronger, and it in the end makes the world a better place. One of the things we've really enjoyed about our Living Lab, which is our Wi-Fi and fiber network and getting companies in to try it, is that those things that we learn and we master, we're going to plan to replicate and share. And that makes Stratford a place where people are going to want to come and learn more about. And when they come and learn more about, whether you're in the service sector, the retail, the accommodation, the tourism, the hospitality, everybody will rise together because we'll continue on the Stratford principle. And you know, one of the things too is that when you're a community of excellence with worldwide impact, it requires everyone to play their part. And there are no jobs in our community where are less important than others. And that's the other thing too, is collaboratively, the ICF vision is shared. And we have almost 15 or 16 people here from our community representing different companies that are working in our community, different businesses in our community, and different levels of government. And it's because they all believe that together we're going to do this together.
I got my last question for you is a bit of philosophy, but it's something I've been thinking about all day as I've been listening. One of the characteristics of intelligent communities that is really in evidence in Stratford is ambition. Intelligent communities tend to be tremendously ambitious. They have big vision. I think it was Katie Espeseth in our last session who said, what we learned was don't scale yourself back. And yet, in the real world, to succeed as an ambitious entity, you also have to perform. So you have to perform in the near term, and you have to have enormous ambitions for the future that drive you. How do you balance that as Stratford's leader and as the head of a very dynamic team of leaders in Stratford, maintaining the ambition, maintaining the excitement, and yet making sure that you deliver?
Well, I think with everything, we recalibrate on a regular basis. I think what we need to do is that in our community, this plan doesn't rest with one person, one office. It's a shared common vision that's recalculated on a regular basis, learning from past experiences, sharing them, and moving on. The other thing we've done is, well, we have longer term vision. We have short measurable goals that we celebrate regularly. Okay. Successes that we do on a regular basis, we try to share, publicize, advocate from, learn from, build on, and go forward. And I think when you have that audacious goal out there, but you have these continual steps of success, sometimes they're recalculations of things you could do better or learn more from. As long as you acknowledge that the principle isn't perfect and that things need to get better, people will give you that break. And people want to believe in the good. I find that often in government, people say, oh, they never believe us. Well, it's only because you allow them to believe that. If you share the successes with them and you let them own part of them, everybody gets excited. When we won the RBC event or got the data center, we actually had a barbecue in Stratford. The Chamber of Commerce was there because they made a presentation. We had the theater there because they hosted some of the executives when they were looking at sites. We had the B&B owner where they stayed camp. We had a great mix of probably 30 or 40 different people who all got to share in that piece of history of the city getting that data center.
Because they had all contributed.
They all contributed. There was not one job. It wasn't me that made the presentation or the economic development officer. We all played a part in that. Unscripted, all played a part. Everybody gets to share in the success. And because of that, when people talk about the RBC data center, there's a lot of people wear that on their sleeve and say, hey, I was part of that. You know, I had them at my place for 2 nights. I drove them around on the tour. You know, I provided the lunch and told them a little story about it. And all of it, you know, is what builds success and also builds pride in your community. And when you're a small community of 32,000 punching on the world stage, pride and vision and ability for everyone to pull their weight is what makes a difference.
As Colin Powell said, it's a force multiplier.
Exactly.
Dan, I don't think we could have done it better, so I hope you'll join me in thanking Dan Mathieson.
Thanks very much.